It plays every single time. And we are live on the PHU Dynasty podcast. This is episode 81. And as you can see, the playoffs are here. We've made it through the entire season. Some good for some folks, some very bad for other folks. Some people just missed out. Alex. It's an interesting year. Came right down to the wire. Some real seeding implications from last week's games. There are a lot of changed. Let me see here 1 second. We have a potential guest joining us. But yeah, should be a really great playoff slate. We'll talk about each of the teams in the playoffs, and then I guess actually we should start with this, Sean. Let's start with the 7 through 10. So as you all could see posted the other day, the top 4 draft selections are currently locked in, and it's the Kentucky Elk with the first overall pick, the Ashton G&T sweepstakes, if you will. And the Armadillos will pick 1.2, the Lambs will pick 1.3, and the Cheese Fries, who currently hold the Muskrats' 4th pick, will pick 1.4. So a lot going on there. I'm sorry?
So the rich get richer.
The rich get richer. And special guest Vincent Padrignani joins us live on the PHU Dynasty podcast. Vince, we're just starting to talk here about the draft order. Picks 1 through 4 are set. And it's obviously for the Cheese Fries. Very happy to have 1.4 here in last week's slate.
Yeah, no, they're very happy to have that pick. Top 5 pick is always gold in a tough league like ours. But I would beg the question that, when you got Alex's pick, just like when I got Alex's pick, 1.4, 1.5 isn't bad, but it could be a boat. You know how much we always wanted one of those. And it was not.
There's lots of potential boats, but there's also a lot of potential sinking ships. The Quentin Johnsons of the world. It's not the Laquan Treadwells of the world. It's not always a slam dunk, but obviously when you have the higher picks, the chances are you're gonna have a better shot at a quality player. So he's gonna pick 1.4, and I guess we can kind of start here with Lionhead's Muskrats. 6 and 7. Obviously last week, just a spirited battle from both teams. Both teams put up big numbers.
I tried. I didn't know I'd come up against the best fantasy performance literally ever.
58.8. It's crazy news. I don't know who's ever done that. Has anybody ever?
No, it was better than Michael Vick's.
I think it's the best ever.
I mean, It's 342 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, adding 10 carries, 82 yards, and 3 touchdowns. You just can't beat that. And even with your, I think he scored 122, which is absolutely a fine performance. Just 162 from basically half the team, from more than a third of the team from one player. It's too much to overcome, even with Sincere McCormick as a starter there for the Plague.
From the Lionhead standpoint, I kind of was able to have my cake and eat it too, that I now have the 6th seed. I have my own pick. So I am either advancing, winning a playoff game, or I'm getting pick 5.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice win-win situation here for the Lionheads. Obviously, would love to win the playoff game, but if it doesn't happen, a nice top 5 pick in a year that I truly believe it will be a very deep first round, but the top 3 to 5, or I should say 1 to 5, will be very strong candidates for running backs, for receivers. It should be a very good year for that. So anywho, yeah. So a very interesting finish to the season between the Plague and the Muskrats. The Muskrats scoring 130 in their win against the Lambs, but just couldn't get that extra piece needed from Dan. And I mean, literally, it was just the Josh Allen show.
All right.
So Vince, now what happens with the Muskrats? I mean, we were talking about Fire Sale. We had the video, the music video. We had all these things. He was joking in the video that if he finished, if he lost out and missed the playoffs, he would have the Fire Sale. I mean, where does this team go from here? Because he doesn't have the first, as we mentioned, doesn't have any picks. It's going to be the same team basically next year unless he shakes it up. Is that kind of the route you see him going?
Yeah, so I listened to the last podcast. Shout out to Tibbs. And Tibbs, I'm going to echo the same sentiment that he did. Makes no sense for him to tank, especially because this year he actually wasn't that bad.
No,
he really just had a lot of bad luck. He had the most points against, and I think that players that I was more down on that I thought, how could this player get more value? They did. Chuba Hubbard, more value than he did at the start of the season.
More
Najee
now, too.
Harris, more value than he'd had at the start of the season. Even Puka Nacua, a lot of the injury concerns. Did he get a little banged up? Yeah, but not more than any other normal person gets. So I think Puka Nacua held his value. T. Higgins, the last 5 games, if you've seen the numbers from T. Higgins, they've been incredible. I think 4 games maybe, but he's been really good. And if you saw, Joe Burrow gave him a big shout out and said, like, I couldn't imagine us not having T. Higgins on the team. Calvin Ridley even was pretty good this year. He's not a world beater. He's wide receiver 28, but that's not terrible. He's wide receiver 3 for Alex. That's what he is in the real world. That's not bad.
No, and I mean, even the Najee Harrises of the world.
Najee Harris.
I mean, he held his value in a contract year. He was fine all year long. I mean, he's numbered running back 17, which is kind of what we expected, so that totally works. But yeah, I think Sean even said Rico Dowdle had, he finished strong here the last few games. He's been excellent.
It's been good.
So, I mean, he'll probably have competition if he comes back next year, but still, I mean, he's got something there. So it's an interesting setup for this team. And they're not nearly as bad as we thought.
Agreed. And a lot of the rocks of the team, Sam Laporta, Pat Mahomes, haven't been good. And I would argue they're both excellent rebound candidates. So I think Alex should stay the course, see how the next year goes. As we've seen, and most of all, the Texas Armadillos have seen, scheduling is a big part of this. You had excellent scheduling last year, and it made your team look like you overachieved. This year, between CMC bad luck and scheduling bad luck, your team looked awful, and now you're going to have pick 2. Do I really think you're the second worst team in the league? Absolutely not. You're going to be another excellent rebound candidate.
Yeah, it's just the classic, fantasy luck can swing both ways. And I mean, last year I got super lucky, almost made it to the championship. This year, the complete opposite. So it's maybe hopefully next year will be somewhere in between that. But guys, I have something interesting. I don't know if this shows this for you guys, but if you go to Alex's team right now and click on it and look at the projection for Desmond Ridder, tell me what you think, because it is concerning. I'd never seen this before. Someone's got to be wrong. Negative 38.
All right, so even Desmond Ritter's not that bad.
What the hell is that shit? I've never seen that.
Is that Sleeper just absolutely trolling?
It's got to be a troll because he's so bad. I mean, his negative 38.24 is crazy. All right. Anywho, that's probably enough to talk about a team that didn't make the playoffs.
But still, one more time on Alex.
Sure.
Like, he had bad luck. This team is still, I would argue, it's just as competitive as Dan's, even my own team. He was only 22 points off from me in the total points. Now I have my pick, and I'm running a more sustainable long-term model than him. But if you don't have your pick, which next year is the last year he's in on this all in, just play it out, see how it goes. If you're 2-7, yeah, you trade things off, but there's no reason to have an off-season fire sale. I think Tibbs said that point pretty well. Like, you give it one more try. That's where I'm at too.
It'll make the off-season fire sale that much better when he does it.
Now, yeah, after that.
It was so funny.
It's almost like you're coaxing him into doing it now.
We just need
No,
content.
I'm not.
We just need content. I'm here for the content. It would be great, but of course, I don't think that's the right decision. I mean, I can't imagine one person in the league would think that's the right call, especially when you don't have your own pick. It just doesn't make sense. But like you said, he had 1,835 points against, which was the most in the league, close to the long gamers with 1,826. But I mean, he put up 1,700 points. He's firmly in the mix this year, and I can see it easily being the case next year. So, anywho, let's move on. Let's talk about these playoff matchups. We got some people involved in the chat here today, so it should be great to talk about these with 2 of the teams are actually on the podcast, so this is pretty great. So we'll start with the Baton Rouge Bombers versus the Lauderdale Lionheads, a battle for Fort Lauderdale, if you will. I guess Sarasota now, but the original Fort Lauderdale members.
He was born here.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So he was born in the spot. So maybe we can fact check him on that one. But boy, what a matchup here. I'm going to go through each of the position kind of head to head. We could talk about some of the matchups because I feel like we're at the point where basically, we're going to talk about these two games, and then we'll talk a little bit about both of the teams that got the buys. So a lot less in terms of volume today. So let's talk about each individual matchup. Burrow against Kyler Murray. Burrow's going to pull a Tennessee Titans at the Tennessee Titans draw, and the Kyler Murray will get a dome game against him, a dome home game, I should say, against the New England Patriots. So I would say both are good matchups. With Burrow being red hot all year. He truly, I think he's the MVP of the league. If you like, outside of Josh Allen at this point, just because he is so damn good and he's playing with literally one of the worst defenses I can imagine.
It's pretty bad.
They're so bad. So, Sean, how do you view this matchup? Do you think it's a pretty obvious advantage to the Burrow side, or is there something that Kyler Murray could maybe have a blow up week here?
If we're going off of the last month, it's got to be Burrow. He's so hot right now. He's so good.
He throws 3 touchdowns a week, it seems like.
Yeah, so many yards. Kyler Murray has not been running recently, so he's not really getting a lot of value out of that. So it's tough. I mean, I could see. Oh boy, there's not a pivot. Never mind. I think you still go with Kyler Murray this week, but
I think the pivot was a Kirk Cousins at one point.
I wish they benched Kirk Cousins so I could pivot to Michael Penix.
There you go.
that would be the pivot I'd like.
That'd be spicy. I would love that. No, I mean Kyler's still got the ability to be a top 3 quarterback on the week at any given time, just because of the way he is. But it's been tough going the last month, so I got to give it to Burrow.
For sure, there's no doubt Joe Burrow he's so much better. And I'd love to be like, but I have a fun stack. Look at my tight end and quarterback. They're so cool together. No, he has Chase and Burrow. So we've been texting about that the projection is lopsided in my favor. Now, he doesn't have a kicker yet, but let's say his kicker gets him 10 points. There's still a 10-point deficit in my favor. But I told him, Sleeper doesn't understand the math of a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase blow-up game like last week. It compounds so much more than any of the rest of us could really even do. Even if you have excellent running backs, the fact that Justin is basically getting, when there's a touchdown, didn't Jamar Chase have a hat trick last week, I believe?
I think so. He had 32 points. No, he had 177 yards, 2 touchdowns on 18 targets, 14 catches. But that week 10 game against the Ravens, he had 264 for 3 touchdowns.
Oh, don't say it again. Oh God.
46 points, Sean.
It's horrifying. It's horrifying. So the 3 touchdown hat trick game, no yards included, is 36 points from Burrow and Chase. So again, I don't think Sleeper can really compensate for that math. So even though I have the projection, I think that's more about if things don't go wrong, the Lionheads should do the XYZ. Whereas as soon as Burrow starts dealing, I'm done.
One thing that is going in your favor, I don't know if you guys have noticed this throughout the year, but Tennessee's special teams is historically bad. They're the worst special teams unit
so bad
on defending kickoff returns and punt returns in NFL history, as far as the number of yards they give up. And that's shortening the field for offenses, which is making their defense look better than it is. Their defense really isn't that great, but teams just aren't putting up a lot of yards. I think a good example is when they played Detroit and Goff had 80 yards passing, but they put up 50 points on Tennessee just because they didn't have to go that far on all their scores. So something to look out for, just as a side note for that matchup.
Well, I'm hoping your boy Chase Brown gets ahead with some early touchdowns, and that kind of nullifies the need for them to throw, because I just can't see the Titans being ahead of them.
I hope everybody on my team rests this week and doesn't play.
I mean, the Titans literally scored 6 points last week against the Jags at home. Will Levis saying it, this team stinks. They're not. I have a gut feeling that all it's going to take is 2 touchdowns early, and it's just going to be a run fest for the rest of the game.
That's what I'm hoping. But if those 2 touchdowns are to Jamar Chase,
then we have problems. Game. You need Andre Yoshvas or something.
To Sean's point, though, I'm looking on Sleeper, and it says, the Titans are the 4th best team against wide receivers. Now, when you play someone against Jamar Chase, that doesn't matter at all. But I think support Sean's point that people are just beating the Titans in other ways, and they don't need to just air out the ball. That being said, though, isn't New England in that same boat with talking about Kyler? Like, who's really afraid of New England? Like, same kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at some of these other matchups too for Jamar Chase. Like in the Vegas game in Week 9, he had 7 for 43. So it's like, that's not a game that, the Raiders aren't doing anything. And then a couple weeks before that, Cleveland, he had 5 for 55 and a touchdown. So even though he got the touchdown, it wasn't a ton of overall volume there. So that could be a similar case.
So that game against the Raiders, right? Jamar Chase
he had 4.3 points, 7 catches for 43 yards. That's it.
Okay, so even in that game, Joe Burrow had 39 points.
Yes,
he had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And Justin still only put up 101 points.
Oh, was that the Gesicki game?
That. What was that? A Gesicki? I think it was a Gesicki game. That's a good point. I don't know who got
T.
that.
Higgins wasn't playing that week, maybe.
T. Higgins doesn't play most weeks.
Yeah, so he hates playing. He's like the new AJ Green.
So those are like specifically the games that Chase has not had great games. It was just when he was out.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, he's going to get the doubles too in that scenario. The 2 high safeties will always be looking at him. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I'll have that point. I'm pretty sure Jamar Chase is younger than Ricky Pearsall. I think that's a fun one to
Holy
mention,
shit.
which is crazy. And they're both on the same team here on the Bombers, so that's exciting.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, they're at least both 24. I know that for a fact.
He's definitely younger than Devon Vele. That's for sure.
He's probably 3 years younger. He's probably could be his kid.
Vele is 26. Chase is 24.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, Vele I think he's one of the oldest rookies ever, outside of like Brandon Whedon, which is
what's the guy from Chicago? He was an ancient rookie. The
Velus Jones. Yeah, yes. He was. I think he was 25 or 26 as well. Like just super old. There's actually a guy in college right now. He plays the Utah quarterback, Cam Rising.
I saw so many memes about
graphic?
him with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. The graphic.
They were in high school at the same. They were both seniors in high school. They were both freshmen in college. Trevor Lawrence has 4 years in the NFL, and he's like, nope, still going back to Utah.
He still has another year of eligibility. It's unbelievable. I don't know how the hell that's possible, but whatever.
Someone explained it. It's like red shirt, medical red shirt, transfer year, all these other things
COVID,
that play into it. Yeah, and COVID, and like I get it, but it's still bullshit. But anyway, Justin Justin slam dunks on me on quarterback. I do think I'm not destitute. I don't think I'm fucked. But I think if Joe Burrow has a 40-point game, I cannot answer at this position. Just Kyler, can you get me 27 and just hold on for dear life and then make it up at this next position, running back? I think we're both starting heavy, strong hitters. Justin is insulated, whether Ken Walker plays or not. He's starting Zach Charbonnet. But I still think I have 2 good running backs, obviously, to go with it. Right now, I put in Bijan and David Montgomery because I do consider them the 1 and 2 on my team. But if you want to put Jonathan Taylor or whoever for the sake of conversation. But
yeah, I mean, like I'm looking at your team. Obviously, it's a clear advantage at the running back position to me. I think it would be better for Justin if Walker just flat out just didn't play, and then you can just start Charbonnet and not have to worry about the culture. I mean, that's definitely a thought. I
think they're both great running backs, but either way, it's just more about like I want somebody to have all the carries who's healthy. That's Zach Charbonnet. So
Charbonnet is going to do more in the passing game as well. I just feel like it's just a better player to have start. But I mean, he's going to have Mixon, who has been a rock solid stud all year long. If he didn't miss those 3 games, he would be right at the top of the rankings this year I think he's number 7 right now, but he'd be even higher. He's coming off of a bye too. So those older legs will be a little healthy, and he's playing Miami, who has not been very good against the ground recently.
And would break my heart to eliminate us finally. Like, just put us out of our fucking misery. Just kill us, Joe Mixon. Just fucking kill us. And this is that type of game at home. It's perfect coming off the bye. I think this is a big game for Joe Mixon. That being said, I do like my matchups. I like Bijan. I like David Montgomery
against the Raiders. Oh my God,
I love it.
I didn't even notice it because I don't know if you watched any of that Bucs game last week. For whatever reason, we stopped running the ball. But whenever we ran the ball, it was 8 yards a carry. It was unbelievable. So
Bucky got hurt, and I think that played a role in that.
I mean, Rachaad White played great, but they ran the ball twice in the second quarter with a 14-0 lead. It made no sense. So it was just bad play calling. But Bijan I mean, he's been waiting for kind of like this like slam dunk matchup. Obviously, like the New Orleans game 2 weeks ago, he was excellent, had 27 points.
Yep.
Like we could be looking at that again here, with a huge 20-point game easily.
You don't think they're going to put the ball in Kirk's hand to throw it?
I'll tell you what, I don't think so, Sean. It's not looking good. What happened to Kirk Cousins?
He can't.
Because he went from throwing 5 touchdowns on the Ravens, 4 touchdowns twice against the Bucks. That's not saying anything because our pass defense is terrible. But I mean, he's thrown tons of touchdowns this year. He looked great early in the season. Is it just like what happened? Like, is it his arm is giving out, or like he looks like he's throwing Scott Potter meatballs out there?
Coming off of an Achilles and tougher matchups on defense. I mean, he played Minnesota last week, and
that's not an easy one.
Before that,
I got to look at these most recent game numbers.
Taking a lot of attempts, too. Like, I'm just going to run down the last 4 games. 37, 39, 27, 38. That's the last 4 games and throws.
Thrown a touchdown in 5 weeks.
Unlike Rodgers, he tore his plant foot. That like he lost a lot of juice.
I didn't know that. That's a fun fact.
I mean, that's a really good point because like the Achilles injury, like early in the season, those first couple of games weren't super pretty for him. Like it definitely took like a couple of weeks to get going with that whole injury. But then like he got so hot in the middle of the year, and that's why like we've seen him do it. But then actually now that I'm looking at it more closely, all those games were against terrible secondaries. Every single one of those.
Yeah, and the last 3 games at Minnesota, Chargers, Denver, those are 3 of the top 10 defenses in the NFL conservatively.
Yeah, I mean the next 3 weeks, or at least 2 weeks, if he can't get it together in weeks 15 and 16, you might have to go to Penix.
There's no reason they shouldn't go at least 3-1 in the last 4 weeks of the season.
I agree.
At least 3-1. Carolina's been spicy though lately.
But maybe you steal that Washington game instead.
I mean, a home game against Carolina, they should win. But Washington is the one that I would say they probably.
I don't think Washington's very good either. They have not been good recently.
No,
so we'll see how they look off the bye. But at least 3-1. If you're like legitimately a playoff team, then you should be going through. But the Bucks have a pretty easy schedule too.
Yeah, we're not playing anybody special at all. I mean, well, the Chargers are really actually gonna be a great game this weekend, but. That's an important one for us, so we better win. Anywho,
so let's finish up here. I think I have the edge as long as Ken Walker is playing his tiddlywinks. I think if Charbonnet is in there, I think it's a push at these positions right now. It's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. And I think let's go to our next position group here, wide receivers. Interesting, I think Jauan Jennings is the interesting one to note here.
Awesome play. He's
been really damn good. He's been really good.
Outside of Chase, like position players, I actually think he'd be the guy I'd be worried about.
He is the guy I'm worried about. I'm insulated with Marvin Harrison. Like if Marvin Harrison scores, Kyler Murray scores. So like, all right, whatever. But Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, like as long as they don't do the hat trick, I should be okay that they're not gonna blow up on me. But Jauan Jennings, like he's been one of the few guys out of nowhere. I'm not ignore his 36-point game in week 3, which is insane. In the last 4 weeks, he's put up a 15 and a 21. Those are good fucking games.
That's not just like bye week filler games. Like that's a legitimate player. And on top of that, he's playing the Rams, and it's one of those Thursday night games. You know how there's always that guy on Thursday nights, like, God damn it. Like when you're playing against that guy, that could be this guy. And it's like the one that
just are tired. They're tired. I think it's harder to play defense consistently than it is offense. And a guy like Jauan Jennings, when Debo's being a fucking bitch out on the side and all the running backs are hurt, Brandon Ayuk's hurt, he's eating, man. I'm very worried about him. I would tell you of everybody we're going to discuss, including Jaden Reed, that is the person I'm the most worried about, Jauan Jennings.
I can see it, man. I mean, Jaden Reed, obviously, we could talk about him a little bit here. He had 0 points last week, 50% snap share, only 1 target. The week before, he had 2 touchdowns on 3 catches, which was weird. I mean, literally, his volume over the last...
That's not sustainable, though. Yeah, the volume's not there.
No, the volume over the last 7 weeks, I mean, we're talking 4 targets, 3 targets, 6 targets, 2, 3. It's just not what it was early in the season. And I'm not really sure why, because he was kind of like their go-to guy for pretty much the entire first half of the season. It's turned into this running back thing.
Everything's just going to Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, they've completely, I mean, and maybe it's because it's, getting closer to that playoff football time where, especially in the North, ground and pound football. But it seems like this is a guy you got to get more touches than 3. It just seems like mismanagement. Like he's too talented.
their first 9 or 10 games of the year, the Packers played. Every team they played was in the top half of the league by DVOA against rush, and now they're catching easier matchups, and Jacobs is just eating.
And I think the weather naturally in Green Bay also lends itself to
helps there. Plus, you factor in the quarterback injury to start the year, and it's just been kind of like a bad trend for the wide receivers on that team. And there's 4 of them, so like, who the hell are you going to start every week? So it's just a lot of like, I don't really want any part of it unless somebody gets hurt, and it kind of consolidates the touches. So it's a tough start. I don't know if I could. And we were talking about Jayden Reed being wide receiver 1 after the first couple weeks of the year, and it's tough.
Well,
I would have benched him in Galactic if I was playing this week. I wouldn't have played him.
That's insane to think about. I mean, we were comparing him to Garrett Wilson in a lot of
wide receiver 8 on the year.
But that's all in the beginning. I mean, he had
mostly,
50 points. He had 30 in week 1, 21 in week 4. That's going to get you half the way there on the season. But if we're talking about flexes overall, it's insane to me that Devon Vele and Travis Etienne, who have, we talked about Vele is an old rookie on a medium offense. Etienne's had a litany of problems. Both of them are projected more points according to Sleeper than Jayden Reed, who's a top 10 wide receiver on the year.
Yeah, the projections, I mean, judging by the Desmond Ridder -38, maybe not the best projection.
You know what? No, you're right. It's not the best. But I do think there's just still something to say that, like, Jayden Reed's a player that was supposed to be someone you should locked and loaded start. I know I'm getting a floor of 5 points from a guy like that. That's not even close to the case. I mean, he straight up goosed him last week. And
we're talking gooses. He had a 2.6 week. He had a 1 point week. He's had a 5 week. It's not been great, man. I agree.
Just a shift over to another wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. catching the Patriots and catching Christian Gonzalez, who's given up under 100 yards total in the last 4 weeks that he's played. So
that's interesting stat.
I do think Sleeper is reflecting that in the projected, though. If you look on the year, he's projected 7.7 right now against New England. Every game after that's Carolina 8.9, Rams 8.3, San Francisco 8.1. So I think even Sleeper understands, like, yeah, when you play New England, like, your number 1 wide receiver is going to get touched.
They've been soft against the run too, so a lot of teams, and Arizona is a team that wants to run the ball, so it could be a pretty low volume passing game.
And if he does get volume, it will come through me. My receivers there's not much to talk about. I mean, Cooper Kupp, it's another Thursday night game. Like, I'm hoping he or Puka could, they'll be spike type of guys, and that's like the best you could hope for in that offense. But as Sean knows, Kyren is the fucking man right now. So
he's been the man for 2 years, basically. I mean, he's been awesome. I mean, at least with Cooper Kupp, you're going to get a nice floor, minimum wide receiver 2, probably. I mean, the 1 was kind of an anomaly there, but I think you're good there. Obviously, your favorite son, Terry McLaurin, has been outstanding all year. You don't really have to worry about that. Zay Flowers is, giving you a decent floor as well there. So it shouldn't be anything really out of the norm, in my opinion, for that. But the tight end matchup is interesting. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't feel great about TJ Hawkinson recently, but he is playing the Bears this week, and the Bears are god awful. So I could see that being more one of those, bigger game weeks for him, but he hasn't done it consistently at any point this year. So there's not a ton to worry about there, but McBride has been outstanding the whole year. If he could just catch a damn receiving touchdown, that'd be wonderful.
If this is the week, though, with Kyler, like, I've been starting the Kyler and McBride stack all year and not been really reaping that benefit. If this is the week I finally get it, I do feel pretty good about my chances.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get into a red zone situation and that touchdown doesn't go to Marv and goes to McBride, that could really swing the shit out of this game. So I would agree. I feel like this is a good shot.
I'm going to call both tight ends score a touchdown this week in this matchup.
Is that the parlay, the Sean O'Shea parlay, the Sean O'Shea PHU Dynasty parlay?
Hawkinson catches a good matchup against Chicago, hasn't scored a touchdown yet. McBride hasn't scored a receiving touchdown yet. Playing New England. I like it.
I'm going to see what that is.
That's a really good plan. While Vince is looking that up, it's a good plan.
I have a plan in place.
I think that's a good plan. I need to really cut up fire sale ones so that they're smaller clips, because I could play the whole music video again, but nobody wants that. We need like faster but clips. While Vince is looking that up, we have no kicker currently starting for the. So we're not. I'm not even gonna bother talking about kickers really, but we can talk about the defensive matchups here. Arizona, another Arizona against New England. So that's
a big game this week.
Seriously, big implications in this game. Seriously.
All right, $10 wins you 80 on the Trey McBride, TJ Hawkinson anytime touchdown parlay for the two of them.
I might rip it just to join the club. I might just steal it.
Yeah, I like that.
That's fun. But oh my God, we have Baltimore against Giants with Tommy DeVito starting. I don't know if that's better. Like Drew Lock is so fucking bad last week. That's gonna be interesting. I feel like I like Vince's matchup here better. I don't know what the other options are for these teams. I probably should look at. I think
I will say this:
quite a few other options.
Justin, if he's not going to win in the projection, which is kind of how you want to win just straight up being better. These are the swing things that will win it. If the Arizona defense gets a couple good stops, maybe a defensive touchdown, that's less that Kyler is getting and Trey McBride, and I think that can slant the game in his favor. I'm going to abstain from this, but if you guys had to make a call, who are you picking in this game?
I personally would pick the Lionheads, and I hate to say that as the Bombers' #1 fan, but I'm looking at the running backs, and running backs win in this league, and I just love the running backs. I love Bijan against the Raiders. David Montgomery is going to get his David Montgomery stuff. Taylor is getting, he's going to get a ton of volume there in Denver. I mean, I think Pacheco's coming back. He looked much healthier last week. Yeah. I mean, I just love the running backs and the floor of the receivers. Whereas I think there might be a little bit more volatility with the flex players on the Bombers that scare me. Obviously, the Vele, the Travis Etienne's, those really scare me. Even Hawkinson to some extent because he hasn't been super consistent. So I think if I'm going with just my gut, it would definitely be the Lionheads for me. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I think I would lean that way. Just look at the flex starts, and it feels too one-sided to not go with that. I would even consider stacking the Atlanta running backs just the way that Las Vegas has looked as a potential start as well.
So I'm thinking about that, especially with David Njoku getting that questionable. I've started Algier. I mean, you can look at the facts probably 7 times this year.
I was gonna say I see him in your roster consistently this year.
So let's. I don't want to spend too much more time on my team, but this is worth shaming me for. So I didn't start him last week against Minnesota when he had 12, and I did not start him against Carolina. Now, slap me on the wrist. I deserve that one on Carolina. But it's like, other than that, his high for the season is 6.6.
Yeah.
6.6 for the entire year. And I've started him probably most of those weeks. The only time he's ever had more than 6.6,
weeks you
benched him.
That is quite interesting. I mean, it's tough because if Njoku was healthy and playing, I feel like he's the easy start. He's been fantastic with Jameis Winston.
Yep.
Literally I'm looking at his numbers since week 7. He's had 13, 12 to 10 to 17, 10. So I mean that's a pretty high floor. He's basically their wide receiver, 2 outside of Judy at this point. So
yeah, I'm assuming you're looking at the Garendo injury for tomorrow as well.
Patrick Taylor, yeah, but that's so tough for me.
That is a tricky one.
It's so hard. It's one of the hardest ones.
By Patrick Taylor
on a Thursday. If I have to look at that, I'm going to take 5 years off of my liver's life just purely on drinking between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because I'm going to be miserable looking at a Patrick Taylor 2.7.
Scared money don't make money, baby.
I'm going to beat Melanie out of anger every single day.
You go take it out on another CEO or something.
We gotta get this guy.
Yeah, right. Take it out of the. If you look at my Discord photo.
Cool.
I didn't even notice that. You know what's unbelievable too? Here's the thing, Vince. What would hurt more, Patrick Taylor being on your bench and scoring 24, or just starting him and getting a 2.6 or something? I don't know what's worse.
I think of that, and then I weigh it against Tyler Algier with another what's his deal? So because sports gambling is legal, I'm thinking about just $50 on the anytime touchdown if I bench Patrick Taylor.
Hedge everything.
The absolute hedge. Well, at least I'm going to make some money if he's going to have a decent game. But yeah, I do think the projection edges me, and I do think I have a slight lean there. but I think that Justin can turn it around very easily with just a couple of these matchups. Even the Kyler Murray, if he throws 3 touchdowns, but it's a Marvin Harrison hat trick, I could be fucked just from that alone, because your quarterback points are supposed to be, sacred, and Justin's leeching them from me. So I like my chances, but anything could happen in this league, as Dan showed me brutally last week. The next matchup is Scavelli and the aforementioned Dan, who brutalized me.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a really great matchup as well. I mean, both of these playoff matchups are fantastic, but I think this one is interesting in terms of the fact that Scavelli, started the year so hot, got a little bit slower as the year went on. Obviously, finished with the 8-6, and he was in pole position for a little while as well. But most of that, I think, was kind of due to the little downswing of Jaden Daniels perhaps in the middle of the year. Kind of didn't really put up some big numbers, and then really was kind of just floated by the running backs during the Mike Evans injury, and Adam Thielen wasn't really involved at all with the injury as well. So I mean, there's definitely some things that were missing in the middle part of the season. However, he's gotten those players back now, and they're all playing kind of at a high level at this point. Especially Thielen over the last few weeks has been outstanding. I mean, 9 catches for about 100 in each game and a touchdown. And Bryce Young for Vince has also kind of rebounded. I will say, I haven't had a chance to say this. I think this Bryce Young rebound, unfortunately, Vince, I think it's a little overinflated by the fact that it was against the Bucs. And I think Sean could agree that the Philly defense can be had at times in the secondary at times as well. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm a full believer yet, but the Bucs one was the one I was like, let's pump the brakes here a little bit. That this is a terrible secondary. They're not good. Nothing is working communication-wise in that secondary right now. So I would like to see him do it a couple more times before I'm ready to get fully back on. This has been the best
resurgence you could hope for with what happened
1,000%.
with benching and all that.
Yes. I'm not taking anything away from it, but I would like to see more of it before I'm like fully on the bandwagon again. Because I think there was, I mean, really with him and Richardson for the most part, I mean, both of those guys kind of just went down. I'm sorry, were you saying something, Vince?
No, I muted my mic to ask my beautiful wife, who I love so much, bring me some water. Yeah, I said bring me some water if you didn't hear me. I love you. Just in case. Jaden Daniels is fun. Scavelli has a beautiful story here. Like, oh, wow, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Baker Mayfield. You regrew your quarterback position from scratch overnight. Like, wow. Scavelli Black Magic strikes again. But this is Josh Allen, and he does what he wants. So if Josh Allen decides in what is going to be, thank you, beautiful, one of the toughest matchups he's going to play probably all year until the late playoffs against Detroit, who could even be a Super Bowl preview.
That game's gonna be awesome.
It's a 4:00. I think it's the
4:25
Fox game. Yeah, game of the week. Scavelli has great quarterbacks. He's going to be good here. It's kind of like me. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's way better than my quarterbacks. But, like, I have a nice situation. Scavelli has a nicer situation. Joe Burrow and Josh Allen are the best situations.
Who do you start for Scavelli? I mean, I feel like you can go in all 3 directions potentially. Where would you go? He's got Daniels in there now.
I'm going Jaden Daniels.
I go Daniels, but Nix is interesting. I will say it's a good matchup.
I don't think I would start Mayfield. I think you could rule him out just based on
Baker's been a little too fast and loose the last few weeks, especially going against the Chargers defense. It's pretty disciplined and well coached. I would expect that he's probably going to have like 2 to 3 turnovers in that game. And
I also think Scavelli is the better team, so I don't think he needs to get cute by like saying
he does not.
I need to have a stack with Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield. Like I think he can just Jaden Daniels. I know my running backs are going to carry me, and that's going to be the strength of my team.
We're going to get into the rest of the matchups, but like Allen could score 50 points, and I think I would still pick Scavelli's team this week.
Wow. That's kind of wild. I don't know about that one.
I do, because I think he's going to get absolutely his running backs against Dan's running backs. Come on.
I mean, it's that I was just looking at the running backs and almost peeked in my mouth a little bit, but it's still Josh Allen though. He could, like, here's the thing is what is Allen's floor for this week? I think it's at least 25. Like, he's going to be the entire offense like he always is. Like, it's just not, I don't see a San Francisco, snow game 30, even that game had 32 points. Like,
well, it's in a dome because it's in Detroit. So even though
right,
it's
yeah.
away, he still has that factor of being in a dome, so he's not gonna have to deal with weather. And he doesn't care about weather.
It doesn't.
because
That's
he's
what
a
I'm saying. It
Buffalo
doesn't even matter. He scored
quarterback,
32 points in the snow. He only played 74% of the snaps because he got
a touchdown to himself.
I mean, the guy's absurd. And Vince, I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum. I'm so upset the Bills have Josh Allen. It shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be this way.
EJ Manuel, where are you?
Why couldn't we get like an Anthony Richardson, somebody that's like ultra volatile and can't pull it off, or like we can't just get it. Can't just have just a fun guy to root against. But man, Josh Allen's incredible, man. Like we've said it. He's earned all the talk that he's gotten on this episode already. So let's go to the running backs and really dive into this a little bit more. Nick Chubb did have one of his better weeks since coming back this past week, 11 for 48. But the problem is the game scripts haven't been that great. Frankly, that's killing him because he's not really doing much of anything out of the backfield.
Playing the best rush defense in the NFL currently.
That doesn't help the cause, and he's pretty much not. I don't think he's fully back at this
You're also
point.
sharing points with Judy, who's also like, how many touchdowns are we getting from the Browns? Outstanding. No, I agree, but doesn't that come to a small degree at the expense of like a Nick Chubb? Kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they're really just not a red zone team. Like, whenever I see them score, it's not near the goal line. They're doing some crazy shit.
The problem is he's starting two running backs, and the best running back clearly that he's starting this week is Sincere McCormick.
And Kenny McCormick. I mean,
Sincere Kenny McCormick, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he hasn't had the change the nickname in here yet. Maybe he doesn't watch South Park, but I mean, Atlanta's defense isn't really good. I mean, so I would say he's got the edge over Chubb, that's for sure.
I love Sincere Kenny McCormick. I'm so glad we can bring him up because he deserves all the flowers in the world. He got the starting job today. I love Sincere Kenny McCormick.
I'm starting him in redraft this week for sure.
He looks good against the Bucs, and the Bucs clearly have a better rushing defense than Atlanta does. So,
I agree with that 100%. I mean, not that either one has been great really in the recent weeks, but I mean, I think McCormick actually looked pretty damn good against us last week too. Like there was times I was like, oh shit, he's got something here.
Do we think he's pretty good, or do you think everyone else on that running backs room for Vegas is so below a Jag that he is a Jag, but he looks pretty good?
Both.
I think it's a little of both, yeah. And I think the fact that Dylan Lobby hasn't really seen the field is the most you can't ever have him on your roster. I think it's just like how could you I liked him coming into the league, but the fact that he can't beat out Amir Abdullah, Sincere McCormick, Alexander Madison, and Zamir White, I can't help you. So I'm sorry.
So many of those people were left for dead too, like Amir Abdullah.
He fumbled his only carry on the season, and he just got doghoused.
He just never played again.
Yeah, he's getting Kendre Millard.
Kendre Miller's back, by the way.
He's back though. Yeah,
he's back. I believe still.
The Rizzler loves him.
Really?
Rizzler?
Why are we talking about the Rizzler? What did happen?
Why not? When you talk about Scavelli's team, though, who's this PHU Rizzler, he's starting 5 running backs, 5 big dick running backs too. I mean, the flex is Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, and Brian Robinson. Wow, amazing. And then in the main spot, RB1 Saquon Barkley, RB2 Derrick Henry. So
I don't know how does Derrick Henry not go for 20 plus fantasy points at a minimum in this game?
Maybe because they bench him because they're up by 70 at halftime.
Because Zay Flowers gets a hat trick.
This just feels like it's going to be a Derrick Henry scores 40 this week kind of game.
I agree. 180 and 2 tutters is.
One of these running backs is going to go off. I still think Pitt's got a great defense, and
they do. Barkley will get his. It might not be efficiently this week, but he'll
get a 15 burger out there.
Yeah,
I think 80 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, 14 like that, no problem.
I mean that kind of floor at your running back position is just absurd. So I mean, we've talked ad nauseum about how good these two running backs have been all year, how incredible the situation has been. I mean, I still think we need to say it one more time, just in terms of like Scavelli, what he did this offseason and all of the luck base like at the running back position, specifically with the free agents. I think all 5 of his running backs that are starting today, so I'm sorry, 4 out of the 5 running backs that are starting for Scavelli all changed teams and all ended up being good in their respective situations. It is incredible. Like
And
really,
stayed relatively healthy too.
yeah. I mean, outside of
running back
maybe like
is insane.
yeah, I mean, like Aaron Jones just got banged up. I would have bet my bottom dollar that he got hurt at some point this season. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And also the trade he made with James,
Massive.
Great trade. He paid. He gave up a first.
Mm-hmm.
He gave up first, third, and some other random pieces like Njoku. But the veterans he got in that trade, Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, those guys, great win now players. I think a guy like Brian Robinson. Why can't Brian Robinson get a contract and be a James Conner type player? Why not?
I could see it. I mean, he's not quite as good, I don't think, but personally, but like
maybe not, but he's
but he
still a very
close.
good player.
He just doesn't do the same stuff out of the backfield. He doesn't catch anything. So
no, but I think he's a damn good downhill runner.
Oh yeah, I agree, and he's gotten better every single year in the league. I mean, this year he's averaging 4.6 yards a carry. It's his best since he's been in the league. So I mean, there's nothing to tell me. I mean, next year will be his contract year, so he'll be even better, I think. So I don't think Washington's going to go out and spend high draft capital on a running back probably either, because they have a lot of other holes to fill. So he should be the starter next year.
Yeah, and even if they do draft a running back, unless it's a Janty, like he's still going to get his. So hats off to Scavelli. Great trade. I was there for the entire process till 5 a.m.
The old hot tub time machine.
Well, the hot tub time machine trade. But we talked about these, his running backs and his flexes because they deserve to be rolled into one. It's lethal, man. If you look at it right now in pure projection, it's like 70 points in projected points.
No, that's unbelievable.
Insane. So much. 17, 17, 12, 10, 10.
Nobody in single digits at the flex positions, which is amazing.
That's what you want. That's how you draw it up.
We talked a lot about Scavelli's team. Let's go over to the plague side of things. So we talked about Sincere. We talked about Chubb. We talked about Josh Allen. Let's go to the receiver room. The emergence of Jerry Jeudy, frankly, has saved this team, I would say. I mean, there was a lot of weeks. I mean, literally, Jeudy was pretty much unusable for the first half of the season. I mean, you could play him and get maybe like 7, but I mean, the last 4 weeks with Winston has been outstanding. He's had 21 points, 8 points, 33 points, and 12 in the last 4 games. So
he's got over 500 receiving yards in the last 4 games.
Yes, which is insane.
Fucking crazy.
And he's had 944 yards for the year.
2 of those games were against Pittsburgh. Amazing.
Very good. And then he's wide receiver 9 on the season now, and he started the season like dog shit, basically. So it's just a truly unbelievable resurgence here, and it's really helped this team quite a bit. Also, Devontae Adams in the last couple of weeks has really turned it on, getting his average is basically 12 targets at this point, and he's been catching lots of back shoulder passes, and I can't see that stopping this week. Against Jacksonville, I feel like it's a good matchup for him, and it's at Jacksonville, good weather, so it should be a good game for Devontae Adams again. And then I guess Metcalf is kind of the only one that I'm not really like feeling recently. Last 4 weeks, 7 points, 5.9, 6.6, and 4.9. So he's also banged up with a shoulder injury. He did practice.
He has a knee too.
Yeah, I think he had some other injury, right? It was a knee injury or something. It's been a strange season for him.
He got hurt in that Falcons game. He just hasn't been as productive since. So
that was with a bye too in there.
That also lines up with JSN being very good recently. So that could be it could be a mixture of all those things, but I don't know. It definitely doesn't feel like he's the first read in that offense as far as the passing game goes anymore. So that's tough. I don't know.
It's by far his worst year statistically at the touchdown, stat. He's only got 3 this year, and that's kind of been his
30.
thing. Yeah, wide receiver 30 for DK Metcalf doesn't feel good. I'll say that, especially heading into the playoff game. I just don't think he has anybody else to start. Like I don't think you bench DK Metcalf. I think that would be potentially
No,
ill-advised.
Unless you want, he's got Westbrook Akine against Cincinnati.
The old touchdown guy himself. I started him last week. He didn't do it. So
Isn't that somebody who more replaces Keenan Allen or Michael Pittman? I feel like you've got to lock in DK.
That was kind of my next
do.
question.
Yeah,
Is like, what do you guys feel about these flex
you go
players?
for guys.
Same kind of way I do about DK. They're just lesser versions of him. You have to start them and hope. I don't love it, but the strength of this team is not the Keenan Allens, Michael Pittman, and the flex. It's the other players we talked about. Josh Allen, Devontae Adams has kind of been there, but he has been good in recent weeks. We haven't gotten to Jefferson yet, but obviously, Jefferson, wide receiver 2, very quiet wide receiver 2 fucking year for him.
Yeah. He's as good as they get. He's got 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns with 4 games left to play, and he's just keeps doing his thing. And like you said, because of Chase, I feel like even his big games have kind of been, overshadowed in certain times. But he's just been rock solid, consistent all year. He's literally a 9 target, 90 yards every game, and then sprinkling. He hasn't done much touchdown wise up until last week, but early in the year he was good as well. So they're just. That's just a fun-ass offense. That Vikings offense is exciting to watch. Every time they throw the ball down the field, it gets exciting. So looking forward to another great game there. Chicago's a hell of a matchup. Also, we have 2 Monday night games this week. That should be mentioned. So we might have to run a watch party. It's the Atlanta game, which will have your Bijan in it. So we could potentially do a watch party for that next Monday. So we should probably get that on the books. It might have big implications. What's the other game? It's
Bears Vikings. So
that's a fun one.
It's important.
Yeah, so that will definitely have implications. So we should do that. I don't have a whole lot more here, guys. Like
what matchup? Kittle has been unreal good.
Yes, that is true.
He's tight end 1, and he's missed 2 games this year.
Yeah.
So, and when McCaffrey hasn't played, he's been even better.
And he's only had really. There's only one stinker week. It was 2 weeks ago when he just didn't. It was the snow game.
Snow game. Yeah.
It's just not much you can do there.
Just significantly, that's just a auto win against Kelsey. Kelsey's been bad, so
he just looks slow now, man. I think it's over for him.
Yeah, he's in his retirement era,
which is.
I think so.
I think it might be it for him after this year, but even then, he's still tight end 9. It's 682. He's just not scoring touchdowns.
6 for 45 to 50 yards every week. Is kind of where he's at.
Eric, I'm going to put you on the spot. You are the only person in this call not in the playoffs. What is your championship matchup, and who's the winner?
Boy, I can't say I've looked that far down the line yet, but if I had to make a gut decision. One of my guts is that one of the seeds, one of the number 1 or 2 seeds won't be in the championship. That's. I think there's just the league is.
You would say that about Adam. That's horrible.
Poor Tibbs.
Why have you done this to me?
The thing, Tibbs' team is really good. Both of your teams are really good. I think I would go.
Scavelli's on his side of the bracket.
I think it's gonna be one of Scavelli. Or the Lionheads is going to be the other one. So I think we'll narrow it down to those 4. And if we did that, then it's hard, man. You guys are killing me here.
I actually think it's going to be Long Gamers over Battle Axes.
Long Gamers over Battle Axes. Okay.
Battle Axes.
So you think Tibbs' team will fall?
Fries, and then the Battle Axes fall to the Long Gamers, who I think will be the first ever PHU Dynasty repeat.
Long Gamers have a hell of a roster, and I do think with Tibbs' team, there are some significant positional disadvantages potentially, especially at the quarterback position. If there's not a good matchup or one of his guys doesn't go off, and then at the tight end position, he's not that strong. Andrews has been fine, but he's had dud weeks as well. So if the wrong matchups at the wrong times and the wrong performances, I could see his team losing for sure.
The quarterback situation is just not good. It's not good.
It's not what
Nobody
you want.
inspires confidence.
No, when you're going against all these other teams that have a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen or
Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Like I just that's a huge disadvantage, I think, in this league. I mean, with our quarterback stats now too.
I'm gonna say the quiet thing out loud. Do we love his wide receivers?
Who do you start? They're all. There's a lot of the same guy. I agree with you.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of similar type players, and as far as the tier list goes, like they're all kind of in the same tier, honestly.
Looking at his team, the player I have the most confidence in right now is JSN as a starter.
Or Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I mean AJ Brown has been kind of down the last couple of weeks. He's getting a tough matchup
Down
this
the
week
year, it
specifically,
feels
but
like.
I mean, yeah, I mean he just got hurt early in the year. He had a nice stretch in the middle of the year where he was awesome, and then the last couple of weeks have been more.
Garrett
down.
Wilson scored 12.4 last week, but before that,
he didn't do anything for like 3 weeks.
It was week 9. He had 21 points. Other than that, he's under 5.
I mean, great matchup again this week, but
know.
he's not playing this week for him, so it doesn't like did the James like to me his running backs are the core of the team. I mean, obviously with Gibbs, Jacobs, Connor, that's a great trio.
Debo is dead. DJ Moore is a tough start.
Breece Hall hasn't done anything, and he's hurt.
But hear me out. You're coming up against Scavelli. If the strength of your team is running backs, they're not better than Scavelli's 5.
Yeah, that's kind of like, okay, you guys are making my decision for me. It
Now,
seems like it's going to be Scavelli.
Gibbs and Jacobs versus Barkley and Henry is a fucking awesome matchup in a fantasy playoff. I will say that. That's great.
That is a highlight. That's an all-time running back matchup at that point. Yeah, I feel like if I had to pick a winner of the league, I'd say long gamers or Lionheads. Those are my 2 picks.
And maybe it's just because we're here, but
I
like
don't.
decisions.
I think that
son of a bitch.
No, I think for me it's. I look at Vince's running backs and I fucking love them, and I love running backs that all get carries. They all have a very high floor. Even the receivers have an extremely high floor. McBride has a high floor. The only position that like kind of scares me is the quarterback position for Vince's team, and like the rest of the team is playoff ready. Like I do feel good about the team. So like I mean, as much as I hate to pick them against the Bombers this week, and like I feel good about the team the way it's built with the running backs and the high floor receivers. So I think there's a really good shot for the Lionheads this year too. But man, Scavelli's gonna be a tough one to run through. I think. I think he's as mid as his team was in the middle of the year. Man, he is a scary matchup right now.
Depth is supposed to be his issue, but he has 3 running backs with over 10 points in the flex spots. So
it was supposed to be his issue in the early part of the year. That's what we said all offseason. He has no depth, and then he just built it overnight.
I didn't bring it up, but he's not even starting the right receivers. Like I would be starting Amari Cooper over Christian Watson like right now.
I mean, Watson did have that big game last week.
Yeah, that's a tough one. We talked about like those Packers receivers.
Amari Cooper had 14 targets and 266 air yards in that game. And he only caught 6 passes.
Wow, I did not know he had 14 targets. Wow.
That's the most. That might be the most of his career.
He had some pretty crazy Raiders games.
14 targets for him. Like I would not have guessed that if I didn't hear that.
That game is gonna be. There's gonna be points in that game. Detroit's defense is a pass funnel. I would be starting Cooper. I think he's like a borderline wide receiver 1 this week.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that game is just gonna be so evenly matched as far as like there won't be like a bad game script for either team. I feel like they're just both gonna be putting up points, and it's gonna be exciting.
We agree if you make that start, it's over Watson though, not Thielen.
Yeah,
I think you got to play Thielen right now.
The Green Bay receivers are just terrifying. Like you could get a big game, but you could get goosed by any of those guys.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think I want to start a potential goose in the playoffs. That's for me personally. But
Sean, did you have your championship picks? Did you make them? I don't even know. I know Vince mentioned his. I kind of came up with mine.
I was looking at my week 16 matchups and I don't love them. Like I got Lamar against Pittsburgh. So like I kind of wish my matchups this week were week 16 matchups. So we'll see. I think I'm going to have a tough time in the second round getting through. I don't love it.
I hope you do. It's either me or Justin. So yeah,
it's one of those two.
I like Vince winning this week. I like Scavelli winning this week, and I like Scavelli's team to get to the finals. So Oh, I'll be the nice guy. I'll say Battle Axes and we'll say Vince's team in the finals, and I'll give it to Scavelli.
Oh wow, I don't like this at all.
I'll take a finals appearance, but I mean, obviously, you want the championship. But poor Bombers couldn't even get a single vote in there for this week. I mean,
Which means
he's
they're gonna win. So
He's gonna send the clip to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and they're gonna
yeah,
Bulletin
seriously,
board
he's
material.
shit
gonna,
all over your life.
he's gonna break into Joe
I'm
Burrow's
worried.
house and show to put it on the big screen.
break into his house.
It's bulletin board material, man. All right, we're at just about an hour. Perfect timing. That should be it for today. We'll, like I said, I'll put in the chat. We'll do a watch party for the Monday night games next week, and
like
we'll do
that.
another podcast for round 2, likely on the Wednesday. So next Wednesday. So we'll be up there for that. Thanks for hopping on, Vince. Appreciate
Thank
you
you for
hopping
having
on. And if somebody wants to be on the podcast next week and feels like they haven't had a shot or something this year, this is your shot. So send in a message to me and we'll get you in. If not, we'll see you next time on the PHU Dynasty Podcast.